Welcome back to Timeless Mindset. In this episode, we are joined by Teale Lyon. She's a personal trainer and business owner, founder of Lunar Love Club and Momentum by Lunar. She runs women's mentoring events and is a beacon of inspiration for women empowerment. Being a woman in the modern world can be confusing. Stereotypes and expectations have been flipped on their head. So where to now for this next generation of women? They face a series of hard questions. How do I become a strong, independent woman? But what if I just want to be a good mother? Will that be enough? How do I become empowered without becoming too controlling and it affecting my personal relationships? Expect to learn about how masculine and feminine energies are impacting modern relationships, why communication is at the core of fulfilling relationships, how men and women can better understand each other, why men need to connect more emotionally to other men, why the masks we put on prevent us from our own happiness, plus so much more. I intended for this to be a chat about women in business, but it segued so naturally into an open conversation about relationships, and I learned a lot from the women's perspective, and it was such a really back and forth conversation. So I feel like it'll be a very valuable chat to listen. So before we begin, are you in Perth and love looking after your physical and mental health? We all deserve to give our body the love it needs. Look no further than Perth's newest and best recovery centre, Rec Lab. It's located in Wembley and has everything you need. 2 huge ice bath plunge pools, a 39-degree magnesium hot pool, a steam room, traditional sauna and hyperbaric chamber. And more importantly, the owner, Pete, is an amazing individual and the people who go there are incredible. It's a great community, an incredible facility, and it's just such a great space to give your body the love it needs. The link to his website and Instagram is located in the show notes below. Make sure to mention myself, Egan, when you visit, and I'll make sure he looks after you. Let's get into it.
Everyone is going through something.
I think that you can actually do anything you set your mind to.
If someone were to ask you who you are and what you stand for, you should be able to answer that question.
You got to be grateful for where you're at.
I don't really want to have all these cuddles. This is your role. Step up.
Teale Lyon, welcome back.
Thank you, Egan. I'm so glad to be here.
So it's been about 10 months or so. What's happened since we last came onto the podcast?
Oh my goodness, so much has happened since the last podcast. I was talking about moving to New Zealand on the last podcast, went over there for 4 months. It became a big, beautiful holiday. We hired a camper van, travelled around, had the most magical time in New Zealand, and then come back, since done my ACL. So I was out of all work for a little while. And then now we're back working. I actually went on my first proper run today, which was a little bit exciting. But yeah, she's grown Luna so much since our last little chat.
What did you learn from traveling?
Honestly, the biggest thing I took away from traveling was that you can run a business not being there, and also just trusting the process, and you don't have to be hustle 120% of the time. Because I think I finally realized that for the previous 4 years since starting my business, I was going 110 the whole time, and then really stepping out to a new country and just taking a step back was so absolutely beautiful.
How do you let go? Because a business is like a baby and you grip really tight to it because you want it to succeed. But how do you learn to let go?
It was honestly one of the toughest decisions. Going to New Zealand for me was such a play on my mind because I was growing, especially Active by Teale, so big at the time, and I was loving it. I just moved into a new space, but if not now, when? It was one of those questions. My business is always going to be such a baby for me, and if I don't take the step and do something that is arguably as important, traveling the world, experiencing new cultures, stepping outside my comfort zone again, you'll never do it. So navigating that was really hard. It was a lot of journaling, a lot of conversations with myself, and trying to work out where my priorities lie.
Did you get stuck in a cycle of in the future, when it's this amount of success, then I'll be able to let go and relinquish this control? How did you what were sort of the steps to understand that I guess you're gripping a bit too tightly? What were sort of some of the signals?
Oh, absolutely. And I think I thought that, especially with Luna, I kept telling myself, I'll train up staff members, or I'll do this, or I'll do that. But then it came to a realization, even if I do that, when I go away, I'm still going to have that same control. And I tell myself, and I fully believe this and have the self-trust, that if I lost everything, I know I could build it back up again, because I've done so much work on myself, on my business, the way I run a business, that I genuinely know, say if I moved across the world for 5 years and wanted to come back and restart my business, I trust myself that I could.
I like that. I've heard that before from a guest. I feel like that's the power of investing in self-development, quote unquote, timeless mindset.
Yeah, genuinely listening to podcasts like this, it's all like your whole entire life, the only constant that you have is you. So if you put time and energy into yourself, it is going to tenfold in all the other different areas of your life, because the way you do one thing is genuinely the way you do everything.
I feel like we get so caught up in the specifics of what we're doing, like the business, and we forget that we are the one behind that, and we are the one who has the skills. And this could actually apply to a new business. And I think that can help ease the pressure that we put on ourselves for that business to succeed. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that for so long, my whole identity had been my business. Everything had been my business. And it took me almost bucket listing my life. What other priorities did I have? And I still wanted to travel in my 20s before I get too many responsibilities, before I get too many things tying me down. So as much as I absolutely love my business, and yeah, obviously moving away did take a hit, obviously, as my business would. I'm not physically here. It is something that I learned so much about myself. I got to see a whole new country. I wouldn't change it.
I want to angle this into today's conversation where we speak about women, I guess, the different roles that women have nowadays and what that looks like. So talk to me about having your own business now. I know for, I guess, decades before us, women weren't really in business, but now they're becoming a lot more independent, more self-sufficient. What is that? Where's that motive been for you to run your own business and do your own personal training?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that this time is so beautiful because women are stepping into their power. And that sounds really cliche, but we are starting to become that business person. We are doing things we've always wanted to. We're starting to look really into ourselves and be selfish. And obviously, if you go back in history, we didn't really have that opportunity. So I think for me personally, going into business, it is a bit of a power move. And a lot of people in my life, friends, whether they're males, females, whatever, they haven't seen their own power. And I think now as women, we're looking at each other and we're seeing that power. And I think there's so many communities that are really helping us step into that kind of powerful boss women energy that we can have.
The first question I have is about the energies that you show up with as a business owner. So you step more into a masculine energy, right? It's more leading, controlling, making the big decisions. I want to know what that looks like in a relationship context, because in a relationship, to step into your feminine energy, you sort of need to soften from that masculine energy. I guess, what does that look like in your personal relationship?
Honestly, that is something that I've navigated so much growing up, being a teenager, being a young adult. I do embody a lot of that masculine energy, taking the big risks, making those big, bold decisions, being the boss, and showing little to no vulnerability. And that has taken a lot for me to realize that there is so much value in softness. There's so much value in vulnerability. And I am very lucky that having a supportive partner does mean it's so much easier. And I've been in like situationships in the past where it's just been toxic, two people trying to be the masculine, trying to be the boss, trying to power up over each other. And in my personal life, like, absolutely adore my boyfriend, and he allows me to be that softness. And when I'm making all these crazy big decisions at work and leading events, standing up for myself, all of those type of things, you do need that anchor at home where you can be vulnerable and can be soft. And honestly, that has helped me see business in an entirely different light, being able to be the more soft, feminine version of yourself. And it is crazy. It's like a whole different person that you didn't even know you had.
It's a very interesting dynamic the transfer of masculine and feminine energy with men and women from the home life to the personal life, and there's almost sometimes a fusion where the way that you show up to business ends up being the way you show up in your personal life, and that can lead to conflict. And I think it does stem to both issues that men and women both face in not being able to adopt, men not being able to adopt probably strong masculine energy nowadays, but then also women not being able to soften because they're so conditioned to be independent and not being able to relinquish that control. What have you learnt from running your own business, interacting with lots of women about this, I guess, dynamic between the home life and the personal life to do with the energies?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so grateful that I do have the Momentum community, which is a bunch of amazing women. And we talk a lot about relinquishing and letting go of the hustle culture, because as females, it doesn't necessarily work for us. And we talk about the ways that we can add value to ourselves in ways that are soft and match our feminine energy, whether that is journaling, meditating in a really soft, beautiful, vulnerable way. And I think that being able to do that for yourself in your personal life, your home life, will actually reflect in your business. And we've had so many conversations about taking breaks from business, not letting hustle culture overwhelm you, and taking a step back from when you have your own business. Your to-do list is 100 items long. You'll be exactly the same. And it feels like you need to tick them off, you need to tick them off, you need to tick them off. And then listening, okay, that's my masculinity, that's my monster that just wants to do everything and they want to do it now, where you have to really look and be balancing it all with enough give and enough take when it comes to the energies.
What does give and take look like?
So honestly, this is something that I've had to learn the hard way as well, but it comes with when you have your lifestyle. I feel like a lot of things do take energy away from us. So they could be great for you, but maybe it is training, maybe it's all of those things. They do take a bit from your life, and it's thinking of adding things in. So maybe you're adding in a moment of slowness. Maybe you're adding in a facial if that's something that you love, or maybe it's adding in a sound healing session or a breathwork session that really fill your cup back up. Because as much as I'm a PT, I love exercise, I love training, and I think it does make me feel great. But there is so many other things that are much softer that we don't realize that we need. So it's that give and take. It's giving up some of your energy in your cup for something you really care about, but making sure you take something for yourself in the whole roller coaster of life.
What have you learnt from the people you've worked with and been involved with to do with the ones who run their own businesses, stepping more into that masculine energy? Have you learnt much about how that impacts their relationships and I guess what women are after?
Yeah, so I think a lot of business women get stuck. This can be all women, this can be all genders. You get stuck in this really regimented sergeant kind of life. And you think as a small business owner, as a woman in business, that you have to do everything all at once. And I've known so many people that then let that bleed into their home life. And you don't have to be in control of everything. And look, this is probably really left of field, but I remember listening to a podcast about, this would have been years ago, and it was about a lot of big, powerful, strong women were becoming a mother figure to their partners because we're so used to being the boss, we're used to all of this, and then in reality that's not matching energies. That person, your partner or whoever it is, needs to show up with the same amount or similar amounts or whoever they are to balance out so you're not constantly stuck in this sergeant mindset, which I found really interesting because all these women I speak to that have small businesses, yes, we're so good at to-do lists. We're so good at pushing through the hard times. We're so good at just keep going. But I've learnt that slow and rest is so important. And again, having the girls around me that also have similar lifestyles, they have business as well, reminding each other to take time for themselves is so important.
I think what men, I can only speak to the male perspective.
No, please do.
But I think a lot of men struggle to assert strong boundaries, which I think has an impact in the relationship. I know for me personally, something I've learned in the last 12 months is when I have a true understanding of who I am, what I accept, what I don't accept, and I'm able to communicate that in a healthy way, it has such a positive impact in my relationship rather than becoming, I guess, almost because I don't have enough security in myself, I'm becoming emotionally reliant on the female partner. And that's a trend I see in a lot of men. And I think, to be honest, in our society, there are a lot of insecure men, and that is to do with, I guess, this whole social dynamic change, I guess, the dopamine flooding that men experience. So there's a lack of, I guess, security in men, which has a big impact when it comes to that relationship side of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see so many of my friends being complete emotional support for their partner because in a day-to-day life, they don't have necessarily an outlet for emotional support because it is very stereotyped, but men are much more likely to bottle up their emotions and share less, which I don't think is a good thing at all, but it can be quite hard for the partner that has to carry all of that when there needs to be a place and a comfortability of being able to share whether you are masculine or feminine. And I've even had partners chats with my partner about this and being like, what do you talk to your mates about? Because I honestly would have no idea, whereas us as females are very good at talking about our feelings and getting a little bit vulnerable with our sisterhood and our girls, whereas I think it's really interesting that men do sometimes accidentally rely on their partner for that type of connection or that availability to be vulnerable.
Let's break that down because I do think men struggle to connect with friends and they call this brotherhood, for example. There's a lack of being able to rely on them for that, I guess, vulnerability to connect with each other. What impact does that have on relationships? Is it becoming an emotional over-reliance?
Again, now I'm going to be caught, but it's so easy for men to dump everything on a female because we're so good at validating emotions. We're so good at being that ear, whereas I feel like men with their other friends that are masculine or whatever it is can not get into those deep nitty-gritty conversations. And it can be a lot in a relationship when someone's having to validate everyone's feelings, be the only person they can speak to, hold everything, hold the space for someone else, when it is so important to have that in friendships as well.
Another caveat is I feel like a lot of women struggle to embrace male vulnerability because of the models that their father have instilled on them. Because there's the older generation of men, there's an inability to express emotions, so they have sort of learnt this lesson that vulnerability it's strange, it's foreign.
It's so foreign, and you see it all the time. Even the way that your parents are does impact you so much, and especially when it comes to communication, especially when it comes to relationships and the way they interact with each other or even the world. So not having a model or not having a father figure in your life that's showing that vulnerability is a big barrier because you don't know how that's supposed to look. Is that normal? Blah, blah, blah. But in reality, it is so normal and so important.
Okay, so men need to find, I guess, more connection with their brothers, like women are able to do quite well. Where do you think the balance is in relationships for expressing vulnerability on both sides? And what do you think that actually looks like? Because like I said, I don't think it should become an over-reliance where men are over-reliant emotionally from their partners. I don't think that ever plays out well. But I also know that I love receiving support from my partner. So it's like, it's not black or white, but I want to know to you what, I guess, balance looks like.
Yeah, honestly, I guess it's different for every single person, but I think it just does come down to that communication and frequent, honest, open communication and being able to communicate the way that you are best heard or the way you best communicate your emotions and even the situation and the environment that is. Maybe it means going for a walk, and I hear so many couples go for a walk together after work and that's their time that they get to chat and do the things. Maybe it's a dedicated date night where you sit down and have a meal together and just chit chat, whatever that looks like for you. I think it is so important to just be so open and honest. And as a female who is a little bit more on the masculine side, give your partner a chance. I think so many times we'll want them to do something or want them to step into their masculine energy and, I don't know, organize something. But if you think back, has every time your partner organized a date, you've then changed where you're going for dinner? Or have you then wanted to control it yourself? It's giving space and an opportunity for people to step into their own.
I love that. I was looking at a post before like that, and it was saying women are so reluctant to relinquish that control. So when, I guess, men are trying to step up and women are becoming overly critical, which then men learn that what's the point? And then they retreat back into that feminine space rather than continue to try and embody more of that masculine to create that yin and yang in their relationship.
Yeah, honestly, sometimes it does take just stepping back. And I've spoken to Rich, my partner, about this before, being like, I'm going to let you do this because it's so easy for me. He'll be like, let's go on a date on Thursday night. And I'm like, okay, let's go here, do this, that, and the other. And then I'll come back 2 weeks later and be, you never plan anything. He says, every time I try, you've got something you want to do more. So I just let you do the control. I let you do the organizing. When it's me coming in myself being like, okay, what do I actually want here? And sometimes I do want to just relinquish the control, let you take me out, be excited, surprise me a little bit. Other times, yeah, maybe I do want to be part of the planning, but letting that be open and honest about what you actually want.
I remember in my relationship, my partner, should be happy if I share this, quite independent, very independent. And I guess I come from a background of becoming, I guess, emotionally reliant. And the growth in the last year has all stemmed down to this understanding of this energy. I remember one time we went out for breakfast and then she sort of communicated to me that she wants me to like take more control and organize like a date night or something like that. And that hit my ego quite hard. Like,
It does.
It does because like to me, I thought I was giving her everything.
Yeah.
Like I'm ready to be supportive, but I think the breakdown in a lot of relationships both ways is just communicating practically what their needs are, because from there, like I do that so easily now.
Yeah.
And like I've done, I don't know, 6 or 7 amazing date nights and that has had such a positive impact on our relationship. And she's felt loved in the way she wants to. But I think men because I think it takes an element of vulnerability to be like, I don't have it figured out. I'm willing to hear you and alter my behavior because this is what matters to you. And I guess if there is too much of a disconnect, maybe it's not the right person for you.
Absolutely.
But I think a lot of the time it just comes from a misunderstanding of what the other person needs.
Honestly, everything that you said, I think is so common to basically my whole entire friendship group. It's that conversation of even your partner might think you're going on all these dates, but in your brain, you're like, we're just getting coffee on a Saturday morning. We hang out anyway. That's not a date. Like I feel it's important to me to go out and have a meal or maybe do something silly like go to the zoo, whatever it is. It's communicating what things mean to you because it can get so easy. We're all so busy that you just kind of get in a routine and then you're thinking, yep, everything's all good. Everyone's happy. We're so in love. But then maybe there is something your partner wants a little bit more and just checking in on, okay, how can I love you better? How did I make you feel loved this week? Or those type of things are so important.
I think a big problem that a lot of relationships face is not addressing the small things, because those small things, there's a quote I love. It says, unspoken expectations are premeditated resentments. And this plays out so much in relationships because it's like the things you don't speak about become the resentment you hold towards your partner. And I think because both men and women are sort of, especially men, are very scared to have that conversation. Like, here are my needs. This is what I want. I think it can lead to resentment. And I think that breaks down relationships more than any sort of emotion.
Absolutely. I think that it is so, and I probably said this 100 times, but communication is so important. And And if you do have some sort of tiff or whatever it is, that can be completely normal. Once you have that conversation resolution, you have to let it go. It can't then come up in all your other arguments of these little things that you're collating together to bring more resentment into the relationship. It's acknowledging, yep, okay, this is what you want, this is what I want, moving forward. It's always about moving forward together, growing together, getting better together, not bringing back past wounds to resurface in an unhealthy manner, if that kind of makes sense.
I don't know what... I feel like a lot of people have adopted this almost subconsciously, like this guard, this reluctant to be vulnerable. I think it shows up subconsciously in the relationship. What I mean by that is, I think a lot of us, when we enter a new relationship, we carry a lot of wounds with us. We carry a lot of scars from whether it's our childhood, earlier relationships, and I think we almost neglect those relationships and we almost believe we're having a fresh start.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, what you went through is shaping what you think about yourself and the world. Can you go through and grow together? And I think there's almost sometimes a reluctance to talk about the past relationships, like, oh, let's just throw it away. But I know for me in my relationship, as soon as we started having open conversations, albeit difficult, it breeds so much more understanding, because it's like, oh, I get it. I know why you're so hesitant to let go of that independence. I understand you now because you went through this, because when you did relinquish that, this happened. And I think it goes both ways, because I think when you truly understand up close what someone has gone through, you just, not only do you connect with them more, but you just understand. I think when understanding comes, I think that paves the pathway for that real honest communication.
Honestly, put that in the trailer. That was honestly everything you said there. I fully believe, because being curious about someone's past and who they are and wanting to know them as a person, the good, the bad, the ugly, is one of the most beautiful things you can do. And that's something I love doing, even if we go into not even a heterosexual relationship, your friends or those type of things, being curious on who the person is, why they're the way that they are, understanding the way they act, and then how they want to be loved, both platonically or romantically, understanding who that person is and having those conversations, even if they are a bit sticky or you feel a bit uncomfortable. It's maybe you're someone that doesn't like hearing the past of your romantic partner. It's something that I feel like it is really important, and it makes someone feel heard, feel seen, feel respected when you want to know who they are, not just from the moment that you met, but from day dot. You want to know all the little gritty, the little things that they want, the little, childhood things they loved. It really does shape a person to who they are now, and the person who it is there now you love. So knowing everything and understanding makes you come into that relationship, that friendship, whatever it is, being so understanding, and you can come from an even playing field of, you can just really love each other if you know the full story.
Why do you think there's a lack of curiosity?
I think for a lot of people it could be a prior wound, or people don't really want to know. And I think there's this element of, this is probably just the way I look at it, but people can get a little bit jealous, or maybe you think that that's not a really beautiful side of you, or say that wasn't a great stage in your life. Maybe, whoever it is, maybe you went through a really big party stage, drugs or whatever, and you're so completely different person now. Really understanding and allowing someone to see that part of you isn't going to make you love them less. So I think it comes from an inner wound of, maybe they won't like me if they know the whole story, but they love you already. Let them know the whole story.
Yeah, I think we hold on to that, like, out of shame, like, you may not love me if you know these darker sides to me.
Mm-hmm.
I know for me, and this, I can only ever speak to my perspective, but I think it's really attractive to see someone grow. I guess that becomes, because I guess one of my big values is growth.
Yeah.
But just seeing the whole picture, I'm big on authenticity. And when I'm in a relationship, this can be with friends as well. When someone is reluctant, quote unquote, be vulnerable, show all sides of them, I find it really hard to connect, because I know for me, I'm putting my cards out on the table.
Yeah.
and showing the sides of myself that, you know, that I am not proud of and the place I've come from. And I think a lot of people, the reason we can lack curiosity, I think, is out of that fear as well. And I think it goes with like, I don't know where this goes, but it's like, if I find out more about you, what is this going to mean for us? There's like almost a safety net of not asking those questions, because I think we're so comfortable with the status quo of like, this is our relationship. Like, I don't really want to like keep digging deeper, but I feel like that just prevents this connection. And I want to segue that into women and what is important to them in relationships, because I think there's a big misunderstanding for men. I think emotional connection is, from at least my perspective, is it like the top tier of what women are after. But I think a lot of men don't actually truly understand what that practically looks like.
It's so interesting that you say that, because it's so true. That is honestly, I feel like the biggest thing, that we just want to feel seen and heard. And I remember seeing, I'm going to say it was a TikTok, but I feel like it was too long ago for TikTok. But it was talking about how really, well, not really, but conventionally unattractive men on Tinder actually do much better than the men that are posting the shirtless, really gym bro photos, because women, we don't really care about that. And it's something I feel men do value appearance. This is so stereotypical and very generalized, but they value appearance, so they assume that women are valuing appearance the same. I was on Tinder, obviously, back in the day. I feel like everyone's gone through a Tinder stage. And I wouldn't want to see a guy with a six-pack abs showing off his Tinder and posting all his gym selfies. And I would be more interested in the guy with personality, the guy who looks like we could chat over dinner for hours, the guy that's not going to talk about gym the whole entire time. We really value that connection, human to human. And in my personal experience, I'm a PT, so I do attract a lot of those conversations that I find quite bland and boring, when really we just seek that emotional connection and someone to be genuinely interested in us at a soul, if that's deep enough.
Be interested, not interesting. There was an incredible study that looked at what men and women think the opposite sex is attracted to, and then they had to rank it. God, they got it wrong.
Yes, tell us more.
It was just like, men thought that women, like one of the top things was like physical attractiveness, but men definitely value physical attractiveness more.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of, like you said, there's that egocentric fallacy where it's like, the things I'm attracted to, I mistakenly believe that the opposite sex has the same mindset or is attracted to the same things. But it's interesting because there's so many studies, and I can attest to it, but like, the emotional paves way for the physical connection too. Mm-hmm. And there was a incredible study that showed that like 41% of, I'm going to butcher this, but people in a relationship, one of the sexes, or saying, wasn't initially attracted to the other person. Mm-hmm. And it was like, emotional connection builds physical connection, and it's like this interplay. It's like mental and physical strength. And I just think men have such a misunderstanding of what women's needs are. I think men believe they have to embody this aura of masculinity, like the big, brave, strong, tough guy who has life figured out, is going to be the cradle for women to cry on, is going to have all the answers. And I just think that sets them up for failure, because not only is that impossible in this life to have all the answers, it prevents them from connecting because they feel like they always have to be on show. And I think for men, it's like, how can men let go of this mask that they're wearing, to whether it's the athlete mask or the rich mask, where they're chasing after money, whatever mask they're adopting, it's like, how can they relinquish that but also embody like a healthy, strong masculinity? And I think there's just such a misunderstanding of what that looks like, because I think social media has inadvertently played a negative role in constructing this expectation. But I think this is why these conversations are important, to like almost break down those stereotypes, because I know for me, subconsciously, I fell into that trap. Like, I have to be this huge guy, this big gym guy, and I have to have all the answers. I can not express emotions, but it is a really hard balance, because I don't think it should be too far one way or the other. Like, I don't think men should become emotionally reliant, but I don't think they should hide their emotions. It's like, how can men comfortably express their emotions to women, not create a reliance, not need them to always give the answers, but, you know, receive support from them? It's a really, really difficult thing to navigate, and that's why these conversations are important.
Yeah. And this is such an interesting conversation, because obviously you have the chats with the girls, but I'm not an expert when it comes to relationships. It's all come from my experiences in like a heterosexual kind of relationship, and then hearing your side of the story. It is all just a balance. And we've spoken a lot about feminine energies and masculine energies, but every single human being has a combination of both. You aren't ever going to be fully one or fully the other. And I think once people learn that, they will learn in different situations you embody more of one or the other. And I think that is something really beautiful, that people need to learn that they can have superpowers in both of those energies. So if for a woman, your superpower in your masculine energy is being quite confident, quite direct, being able to assert yourself and be brave and be powerful, but then your superpowers when it comes to your feminine energy is being soft, is being creative, is getting in that flow and being able to really see yourself for that beautiful person that you are. And I think when it comes to men, you can have those same superpowers. So it's that being vulnerable and being really emotionally available is quite a beautiful feminine energy that men can adapt. And then getting more in the masculine is that exactly the same as women adopting that masculine energy, is getting more into that, making decisions, being a little bit stronger, being a strong grounding force for the relationship. And as we move, as we age, as things happen, things are always changing, and it's being able to find that balance and have the right amount of energy at what kind of situation it is needed for.
This is an oversimplification for men, but a good man, like a mantra of like what is an ideal sort of mindset or a place to try and aspire to be, is like an attractive man is one who understands who he is, understands where he's going, and has fun along the way.
Yes.
Like, really simple. It's like, do you know who you are? Do you know where you want to get to? And are you enjoying yourself in the process? And to me, it's like, if you can do that, to me, that's very attractive man, because it just, not only are you able to step into that masculine space, but who doesn't want to be around a fun person? And this doesn't mean that it's going to be smooth, but I just think having purpose as like the foundation for that, and like having clarity on who you are, is important. I think that's what a lot of men misunderstand. And I think there's a disconnect of that brotherhood that actually really helps men understand who they are and where they're going.
And having a space to have those conversations that isn't necessarily just your partner. And that explanation of being a great man is also the same with a woman. I feel that females can learn so much from that, knowing who you are, knowing what you want, but being able to, I guess exactly the same, have fun and be soft through that journey, and understand that you need to nurture yourself. I feel like we had a workshop a few weeks back, probably even a month now, and we did gut-friendly grazing, we did sound healing, and then we did facial yoga or facial massage. And it was really interesting, our facilitator talking about how we are, as women, disconnected from our body. And even if we want to go down that route, it's quite taboo to talk about your body, and we don't really chat about it or even go down the self-pleasure route or even just like touch our face. And I feel like we can become so disconnected on who we are because a lot of it is taboo. We're told to cover up and all of those things, that it is knowing who you are, I feel, is clouded by the expectations of society. And going back from what we said at the start, we have way less expectations than we did 20, 30 decades ago, but we still are a little bit clouded by this societal expectation of who we need to be. And I think that's really interesting.
That's exactly where my next question was going to be. Do women feel a pressure to be a certain someone now? Because it's like that sometimes, even though they were pressured to conform to this role of, you know, looking after the household, I guess it was really simple. It's like, this is what you have to do. Although a lot of women aspired to do more, it was simple. But nowadays you can be anything, you can be anyone. And now there's like a real lack of clarity on, I guess, for a lot of women about like what they want to become. Like, are they content with just being a really good mother, which is an underrated aspect of a woman's life? Or do they have to like now run a business, and now they have to have kids, and now they have to be the one to anchor the male's
Yes.
problems like that? Like there's women have to do everything now. So I do sympathize with the pressures that they do face, but how are women navigating this dilemma?
That is such an interesting perspective that I've recently spoke to my friend about. It's this decision fatigue, and I feel we have so many possible different options, and then we get into this paralysis because now we can do anything, and it's this just overwhelming environment of social media, especially showing us we can be this, we can be that, we can be this, we can be that, and we can change at any point, which is equally as beautiful as it is frightening. And it's so beautiful that if we want to change our mind and be whatever in the wild world that we want, we can. But then in the same way, it's scary because you can be whatever you want. And it is probably, for a lot of people, they feel like they have to be someone that they're not necessarily. Some women, even some men, they just want to be a really loving father, be a really loving mother, and that's all they want to do. But there's this pressure that you have to do more for yourself. You have to have this big business. And I've learnt so much over the last few years on where my priorities are, because I know the ways to scale my business and the energy that it will take and the time that it will take and possibly money that it will take. But I'm looking at my priorities now, and yes, my business is such a big priority and that's something I want to do, but there are other things that I want to do. And going into that endless opportunity thing, you can literally pick anything that you want, and it is scary.
I feel like, I know for me personally, you look at an opportunity, you try and optimize that opportunity, and you forget the sacrifices that are sort of embedded in that choice. And a quote I love, and I use it too much, but
I love it.
it is, you can have anything, you can't have everything. That we have limited time. We can't be the masters of everything. We can't be the best podcaster, the best at everything. Yes, we can have success in a lot of things. Like we can look after our bodies, have a business, have a healthy relationship, but you can't be the best at every single little thing because it's just not enough time, and that's reality. But it's, what are you prioritizing? Why are you prioritizing it? That what are your values? Understanding who you are. To me, like, I think recently I've reflected, like, I've gone through a lot of my life in this anxious state, and I'm just fucking sick of it. So I was
Fair
like,
enough.
so I'm like,
Leave it in the room.
what do I want to prioritize? It's like enjoyment along the way. Like, I want to enjoy this grind, this journey of becoming my best self in all aspects. So I had to sit down and think, okay, I don't need to push myself to burnout to achieve, because I think you get stuck in cycles you don't realize you're in.
Yes.
I think that's why self-awareness is important, because we play out these patterns, and it happens a lot in relationships. And I think I keep segueing, but relationships are like mirrors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what they help you, especially they help you reflect on who you are and what you're doing with your time, because relationships do take time.
No, and exactly what you were saying, you can't do everything because time is a limited resource. And if you want to put energy into every single person, every single thing, all of this, you're going to leave yourself burnt out. And you have the capability to do so much more than you think, but it isn't everything. And if you want a healthy relationship, you have to put time and effort into that. And I think if we segue all the way back, a big thing is just making time and listening to the other person. And I think as a woman, it is so important to know yourself. And that is the underlying factor for a lot of different areas in your life being great. If you know yourself and what you deserve, you won't have a shitty partner because you won't put up with it because you know who you are and what you deserve. You won't put up with a shitty job, all of those things, and you can really step into who you are. And I don't even know where this came from, but one of the things that I really love is having those deep conversations and having people in your life that you can have those deep conversations. And it may be something that's quite feminine that we love having these deep conversations, but I think that it's important for all of humans to be able to do that.
Do you feel like women are naturally more vulnerable? Because I feel like a lot of women who are independent and strong can also be very reluctant to be vulnerable. Like you said, a bit of hesitation to be vulnerable because I feel like it's that guard, that safety net. It's like, I'm this strong, unstoppable, badass woman. It's like, if I start showcasing the fact that I don't have all the answers, you let go of that mask of having it all figured out, because there is the fear of like, what are they going to think of me? Mm-hmm. What does that mean about my life? But I feel like letting go of who we think we need to be is just as equally as important as trying to become a better person. It's like, why are you trying to become that person anyway? What beliefs do you hold that are making you take all this action? And I think stripping that back for both men and women, I think paves the pathway to such a more fulfilling relationships with yourself and others, because you just understand why you're doing things. You're not just doing them and being sort of guided by all these pain points that you're not even aware of.
Honestly, I can agree with that so much. Growing up, in my case, I was always smart, always knew the answers, always was this big, happy, vibrant, energetic person. But I actually struggled so much with mental health at that same stage. And when I acknowledged that to myself, first of all, and realized that, okay, I'm putting on this show for everyone else, but I'm not necessarily feeling well in myself. I go to school and I'm this crazy, energetic, happy all the time, doing well at school person, but I go home and feel so empty and sad. And once I stripped, it helped moving interstate, but once I stripped the expectations of others and I stripped away who I thought I had to be and really let myself with my close friends be who I was and let them into kind of what's going in my head, I built up all these walls and I wasn't able to really soften. But once you do soften, you attract so much beautiful vibrancy, and you're not trying to be someone that you're not, and you're not hiding a part of you. You've almost worked through that, worked out who you are, where you want to go, what you want to do. And then, having fun along the way is so much easier when you're not trying to be someone that you're not.
Do you know why you were reluctant to soften?
I think it's one of those expectations of, I guess my family never spoke about mental health. We never had any of those type of conversations. It's just not kind of something that we do. All my family's from the country, so I think that also adds another level on being tough, strong, powering through. And that was something that I really valued, being independent, strong-willed, powerful. And I thought that was who I had to be to be Teale. And it's a radical ride working out that that's not why people love you. You can have your down days and people are still going to be there. And there's people that will listen to you when you have those conversations. When you don't feel like you have an outlet, I'm sure someone in your life can be that outlet, but we just don't let ourselves open up and lean on someone enough.
It's interesting because it takes trust to be vulnerable, but you need to be vulnerable to build trust.
Yes.
It's this thing that Brené Brown talks a lot about. It's like we need to connect with people in our life. We need to understand at a deeper level who they are. But it's scary.
Yeah.
So how can we do that? And I honestly believe it's just sometimes by doing it slowly. You don't have to reveal the deepest, darkest, most shameful aspects of yourself. I know for me, it's not what I did, but piece by piece, you start to trust them, that they reciprocate, they validate, they understand, and nothing really changes. You feel better, you feel lighter, you connect more, and you think, this was actually good.
Yeah.
Like being able to let go of who I think I need to be is changing how I feel, changing my relationships. And I just think slowly it just becomes easier to do. But then I think what really fucks people up is when they are meet the wrong person, like the antithesis of healthy masculinity, and they get those big wounds, and then, it creates this even stronger fear to do it again, and they put up this massive guard. That's why, you see so many extreme opinions either way, and it's like, who hurt you?
Agreed. And my whole business, Lunar Love Club, is all about that connection. And if we strip it back to when someone's a stranger, it's the tiniest little things that add up. It's if someone's telling you about something, really listening. If you meet someone that's quite cool, don't be so scared to reach out to them and continue that connection, continue that conversation. And if we flip that on our heads, and if we're the person that was chatting to someone, going to an event and then having someone message me after an event saying, hey, that was so fun, can we go grab a coffee, is one of the small things that if we are having trouble building that trust in other people, just letting those small little things happen. And like you said, it's not an all at once. You meet someone and then you trauma dump. It never works like that. It's one of those things, you build a connection and you kind of move through those stages of friendship or maybe a relationship where you start to really understand who the other person is and get along with them, which I think is so beautiful. A big thing that I advocate for is taking the first step in any sort of friendship. It can even translate into relationships, because I think it's those little first steps when you meet someone really cool that you were just so scared to take. And even me, I haven't moved that far. I've moved half an hour away. And I'm really working on making friends that live around me, because I've grown up in a really tight-knit community and basically all my best friends live within a 5-minute drive of my parents' house. So now I've been put in this new situation. Yes, I have a loving and supporting partner, but I do want to have friendships in the area. So it's the first time in my life where I'm really having to put effort into making new connections, making friends, talking to someone at a coffee shop. Even this morning I went to the beach today with a girl that I met at like an event, but she was just kind of standing in front of me in the coffee shop line, and she was really cool. We were chatting about her van trip around Australia, and then I got her Instagram and I just messaged her, do you want to go to the beach next week? And it's those little things where you start to meet really cool people and then grow those connections, and then you're able to build trust in other people.
Reverting back to what you were speaking about like this, almost like you developed to the outside this perception of who Teale was, like this persona of like, Teale is the fun, happy, positive, strong, independent woman. And then you do this without realizing it. You create this sort of subtext, which is if you don't show up as that, I don't know, like something negative is going to happen. Either people think you're not that, or people think you're not good enough. There's always like a subtext. So we sort of, men and women, we show up with these. But it's interesting because on the flip side of like becoming the best version of ourselves, we also sometimes, without realizing it, create conditional happiness. It's like, I'm worthy when I show up like this. And I think a lot of people don't realize that in self-development, and I've talked about it a lot, but it's like, I'm trying to become better, or I'm trying to grow in a relationship, and it's, you're creating more conditions for why you need to be a certain person, why you need to, like a lot of people turn their pain in life into their purpose. They grow, but they don't realize that they don't need any of that to be happy or deserving. You know, they don't need to layer all these conditions onto them. They don't need to be the strong, independent woman who has a 7-figure business, is able to understand herself and navigate this life so simply with elegance to be worthy of love.
Honestly, I couldn't agree with you more. And I remember early in like the relationship of that I'm currently in, I assumed that a big part of why I was loved was because I had this big, beautiful, successful business. And everyone around me was always telling me how proud they were of my business, how they love how hard I'm working, and all of these things that are just building this story in your head that that's who you are and that's how you're good. But it's that getting someone that validates, no, Teale, I don't care if you have a business or not. If you want to throw the business in the bin, I would still love you exactly the same. That isn't attached to who you are or why I love you at all. And that simple conversation that he probably doesn't even remember, it's like, oh, okay, let's just not stress about that then. If I decide to make changes in my business or completely change careers, go to uni, do something completely different, it doesn't change anything except me. So at the end of the day, it's this story that you're telling yourself that no one has ever invested in. Like, no one's telling you that. You're telling yourself. And even if people are complimenting something, they're not you. They're just complimenting it from their perspective. And look, you're probably sharing all the highlights anyway. So people are going to be proud because you're doing amazing things, but they don't know the whole story.
I feel like vulnerability is like letting someone proofread your story.
Yeah.
Because it's like, this is me, this is my life, this is who I am. And you're like, and then you show that to someone and they're like, you don't need to. You don't need to write the story that way. And I just feel like it helps people stop playing out these patterns and these stories in their head. And I think that's why it's so powerful, because nothing has an assigned value, right? Nothing is black or white or objective. Like, we all create these stories, and I just think it's just so important just to let people into our stories a bit. And it's like, the independence we have allows us to take control of our story in such a positive direction. But that doesn't mean you need to stop letting people have a look, let them under the hood, get them a bit of insight, or else you don't know, you forget almost sometimes why you're even doing something in the first place.
And I think social media has a lot to play for that, because you are showing your highlight reel. And I've tried to show more of the not so good times, but I never bring out my phone and record when I'm having a really bad day. Obviously not. But if I'm having a magical walk along the beach on a random Tuesday at 11 a.m., maybe I'm going to flick out my phone and take a photo. And that's the thing that's going to be shared. And I'm not doing it on purpose. And it's just this highlight reel, and we talk about it all the time, but behind that we are humans, and that is all just a put together art, not an artwork, but it's something that we have constructed to look a certain way. Comes with personal brands, and I think personal brands are so big, and I want people to remind themselves that a personal brand is just someone constructing a version of themselves that's online. And there are so many other dimensions to a person that you may never get to see. But if someone's your partner and in a relationship with you and wants to be in a relationship with you, they get to, and they should be curious and they should want to see the whole side.
Have you seen that analogy for an artwork where it's like you see the final masterpiece, but like you sort of forget how many failed brushstrokes there were and how many mistakes are along the way? Like, and I feel like the reason social media is a highlight reel, I don't think we intentionally do that. And I think this is what people misunderstand. We think everyone is purposefully trying to showcase the best version of themselves. I think a lot of people want to, level that out a bit and show that there's more to them, but it's just a pure selection effect. Like when you're in that mindset, that negative mindset, why there's just the greater friction to post it. Like, what are you even going to post? And like, seriously, what are you going to post? Like, and I don't think there needs to be a showcasing of, honestly, I don't have the answers, but I just feel like there's such a push to be more vulnerable. But what I don't think people realize is vulnerability is such a doing word. It's like, if you are passionate about artwork, music, singing, you actually can be vulnerable if you're just showing your weird, quirky, unique self on the internet. And I think people think they have to show like almost like this script of them saying like, I hate this thing about myself, or them crying. But it's like, it can be a doing word. It can be the vulnerability. Like, vulnerability is putting yourself out there to be attacked, to face criticism, to face people laughing at you. And that's where the power is. And it doesn't have, like, it's starting a podcast. It's not just, it doesn't have to be videos of someone crying, for example.
Absolutely, and I think that is a real big misconception. I think we need a mutual understanding of that. I'm only going to post the things that, probably look nice, like things that I'm doing that I'm enjoying. Even for me personally, I don't necessarily want to go through because I'll stalk myself, hands up. I've definitely gone through my Instagram because it's just filled with all my beautiful travel memories. There's been times that I've got my phone stolen on travel. That's not on my Instagram. Times I've cried my eyes out for something else. There's times I've been scared. There's been times I've been frightened. Irrelevant to what I'm posting, but it's just there needs to be a mutual understanding that we select what's good. And to be vulnerable is just to post something, is to just show who you are. You don't have to show the bad and the sad and all of that. People don't really want to see that. We want to be quiet. People want to be educated and inspired. We don't have to feel sorry. Like, obviously share what's going on, the deep dark side, with the closest people. I think that is so important, but the whole world doesn't necessarily need to see that. And I'm a person that gets quite affected when there's a lot of negativity around. Even when big world events are happening, I, for my personal sake, almost unsubscribe from a lot of that, what is happening, just to look after myself. And I feel a lot of people are the same, but we have this pressure of understanding and sympathizing with everyone. Now we have access to everyone's problems that we must sympathize with everyone, but we just need to understand that there's a lot of people going through a lot of hard things. And going back, we just need to share what we think, and we just got to share who we are. And it doesn't matter what actually other people are doing. It's just be you. Don't worry about everything else.
All right, let's put this vulnerability to the test.
Okay.
You've got the vulnerability cards.
Call them
what you want.
Do you want to know a sneak peek into what I'm working on at the moment?
Yeah, 100%.
I'm actually making a conversation deck. So this podcast is very on trend. For the past 2.5 years, I've been collating like different questions that really cool people have asked me, different things that I've been really interested in. So keep your eyes peeled. Beta version's been tested with my close friends, but
awesome.
They're not out yet.
Sounds cool. Okay, so we've got 3 cards. You got to pick one, and if none of them resonate with you, I'll give you another 3.
Oh my goodness, these are so good.
Do you know Esther Perel?
Probably not. Maybe. Possibly.
Yeah, you would have heard some of her stuff. She's awesome. But
Yeah.
this is her deck of cards. Normally, I always feel like something comes. Okay, I need to stop saying that.
No,
every
go.
episode I say that. Every episode I say to the guest, because it's always someone new. I'm always like, it'll come to you, like the card that you should answer, like the intuition sort of speaks to it.
Oh, absolutely. And one of these is hectic, which I know probably should be the one that I answer, but I'm not going to go with that one. This is the one that's jumping, but it says, I finally have some clarity about. So I'm not working that much that I used to do. I used to do full-time PT. Now I'm only doing it part-time. But last night I pulled an oracle card and it basically said like, yes, this is right. Because I really feel that something big is happening and I have clarity about it's okay to downsize your business and move to a different city and start something new, because I had so much fear around that and so much, am I letting down, I don't know, my successes or anything like that. I finally have clarity of like, okay, I know what I'm doing and I'm happy to ride this wave out and prioritize me and even my recovery of my ACL rather than having to be a hustle culture all the time.
Do you struggle to like, I guess, embrace the roller coaster? And I know for me, always want to like pave the pathway out, like look at each step. This is how it's going to play out. But like relinquishing that and like sort of letting go of that. Have you heard of the bow and arrow theory? So an arrow, let's say think of like archery. Before you're about to be propelled forward, sometimes you have to like go backwards. And I feel like that happens a lot. I see in people's journeys is they take that step back, that space so tightly onto the thing we don't really go anywhere.
You don't want to go backwards. And I think my ACL, when I did that, it made me stop doing everything for at least 6 to 12 weeks, really. And it was almost like the universe telling me, Teale, slow down, work out what you want, work out who you are. Is there anything you want to do without having to worry about the effect on your business? Because I had to pause everything. And that was really a beautiful time of reflection and working out what's going on.
Yeah, awesome.
What's your cards?
I've got, my one I'm going with is, I wish I could get closure on. And you could take this a million ways, but I wish I could get closure on, I guess, what I really want to do with my life. And I know it doesn't need to be figured out, but I think I'm 23 and when I get back from Europe, I'm about to start my own business alongside this other work that I'm doing in this space. And I really am hoping and believing that this trip will give me that clarity on where I want to take my knowledge and my passions for this. And I'm not rushing that answer, but I think I'm sort of just getting a bit like, fuck, I just want to do something. And look, I think most of the time the answers come from the action and like doing it. And I think I've been reluctant to start. But I really just want to dive in once I get back and see where it takes me. And I think by the time this episode's out, I'll be close to back from Europe.
So exciting.
But yeah, I'm really keen to step out of my comfort zone properly again. I feel like I've definitely got comfortable. Like I can interview anyone. It's easy, but I really want to, create an income, a life, a business from it. And I feel like feeling quite ready.
That's so exciting.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that you do just have to jump in. And I feel like our personalities are quite the same. We want to know exactly where I'm going to be and I want to know the next step to take. And Lunar Love Club, honestly, that has thrown me on the head. Luckily with PT, I could see and there was like role models in the space, whereas no one's ever done Lunar Love Club before. So I'm like, I don't know where I go next. Like, do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? But it will be amazing. You just got to jump in.
And that's where I really just want to make something authentic to me and not try and just copy what success looks like. It's like, I don't know, I want to think of something cool and unique. But hey.
Look at you. You're 23. You've got so much time ahead of you.
True. Very true. Any concluding thoughts?
No, thank you so much for having me. Concluding thoughts. Should I come up with something? Have a conversation with your significant other soon and just ask how do I make you feel loved, and then be clear and communicate how they want to be how you want to be loved, and then how they want to feel loved. Get that out on the table, clarify it. Can be a sticky conversation. You don't really know what to say. Don't let the other person blow it under the rug. Have it, sit with it, work out what you want.
I feel like you can only meet someone as much as you've met yourself. So invest time into understanding who you are. And there's such a positive feedback loop for the relationship. You understand yourself more, you can connect more, you connect more. There's opportunities and, of course, opportunities for growth in a relationship. Relationships are like a mirror. You get exposed. Your bad sides, you can get exposed, and that offers the opportunity for growth. And it's this amazing feedback loop that happens. So I think open-mindedness and vulnerability, those two, put those together, you become unstoppable.
Yeah, unstoppable. Love it.
Thanks, Teale.
Thank you so much.